What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of BR's Draft Board Show. I'm Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus for another positional breakdown here for you guys of the 2026 NFL Draft. Today is one of my favorite days. We're talking wide receivers. God, I love evaluating this position. It's so much fun because there's so many different ways to win. You could have, big wide receivers that are contested catch winners. You could have smaller wide receivers that are more after the catch, screen game, quick game type of players. You could have those intermediate guys that really do it all. And there's just so many different ways to win, so many different ways to prioritize it with the NFL and just the game of football in general, to be honest with you, at every single level, getting more horizontal, more spread out. You're getting more speed, more pass catchers on the field, and that's what makes evaluating this position so much fun. We're going to talk about my top 5 wide receivers for the 2026 NFL Draft. I know we got the college football playoff. We got some big games coming up, so obviously that'll affect the evals a little bit. Of course, you've got the All-Star Bowls and the Combine as well as we start to round out those scouting reports, but I got my top 5 that I'm going to give you guys here today. We're going to actually talk about how this class lines up with 2027 as well, where we could see, guys like Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State, Ryan Williams from Alabama. Where would they be if they were in this class? We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll give you a riser, a faller, a sleeper, and some teams that maybe could be some surprise teams that I think will be pretty aggressive for a wide receiver when it comes to this offseason. Let's dig right into it, though. We got a lot to break down. We've got film breakdowns with these guys as well. My number one wide receiver right now for the 2026 NFL Draft is Arizona State wide receiver Jordan Tyson. Going back to what I was saying before, you've got some wide receivers that can do it all. Jordan Tyson, to me, is a wide receiver that can do it all. He has got the size, speed, explosiveness, flexibility, playmaking mentality, the strong hands, the spectacular catch ability to him. It is all there for Jordan Tyson. He has simply put one of the most talented wide receivers in all of college football, and he showcased that really over the last couple of years. Sam Leavitt, who is his quarterback this past year and last year at Arizona State, he's one of the more talented quarterbacks in the country as well. He has a chance to still declare for the NFL draft. It looks like he's going to be in the draft portal, or in the college football portal, excuse me. But when you look at the combination of having an NFL type of a passer and what Jordan Tyson was able to do with that sort of player. Incredible production, but more importantly, some incredible numbers. You can see on the screen some numbers from Pro Football Focus, which of course you guys can see if you have a PFF Plus subscription over at pff.com and using the app. It's that receiving grade versus man coverage. Look at that. It's an elite 92.4 anytime. And look, Jordan Tyson gets the very best. He gets whoever your best corner is, they're putting them on Jordan Tyson, because if they're not, they're just giving up basically anyways. And with that being the case, he still has an elite receiving grade in those single coverage situations. You see that separation percentile, 66.7% of the time that he is in a single coverage situation, whether it's press coverage, off coverage, match coverage, whatever it is, where the corner really is one-on-one against this wide receiver. 80th percentile separation with that open target percentage there of 66.7%. You see the yards per route run as well. He's just so heavily used in the offense. That's what that number signals right there. So Tyson really does it all. And I've got a film clip right here, which it's him in the Baylor game this year that I think showcases what he can bring to the table, honestly. And it's flexibility for the route running, but it's also that explosiveness. Some guys, they have the ability to chop the feet and sink the hips, and they can break pretty well on routes, but then, getting out of those change of directions is sometimes tough for them. To find a wide receiver that not only has flexibility to be a great route runner, somebody that can make sharp cuts when they're running at full speed, but then also accelerate so quickly after that, is something that Jordan Tyson does really well. So in this clip, he's at the bottom here. He's a single receiver to the left side, to the boundary side, because we got the field side to your right because, well, you've got more space. So that's why we call it the field, and this is more towards the boundary. So if we play this, he'll run past this corner here, and then really the setup we'll see on a different angle where he gets out of, oh, actually, there was another receiver down there, but he gets into this setup where he's one-on-one versus the deep defender. And what I love about him is he runs straight at this defender to basically put him in total conflict. For one defender to have to guard Jordan Tyson going this way, going this way, going past him, whatever. I mean, that is just such an impossible task. And you will see Jordan Tyson, he sauces him up a little bit, right? He gives him a little bit of hesitation. But just watch the acceleration and the speed once he does put his foot in the ground and once he does get towards the front pylon, how fast he's able to do it and the type of separation that he creates. Look at this. Look at this. I mean, this is wide open right here. This much space is wide open in the game of football. So that is all because Jordan Tyson was able to create that separation. I'll let you guys see it full speed right there. That is translatable stuff when it comes to college football to the NFL. And then we see on this final angle here, maybe time to jump a little bit better, but maybe, I don't know, maybe he just wanted the Michael Jordan hang time from the free throw line and he just wanted to showcase how he's got some hops as well. So that to me is what makes Jordan Tyson so great. Now, the negatives of Jordan Tyson, to be honest with you, there's not a ton other than the fact that he has been injured in all 4 years that he has been in college football. Not ideal. This is somebody who, hypothetically, if we say we're playing Madden and we're turning injuries off, I think this guy would be without question the number one wide receiver for every team in the NFL, talent-wise. But availability and the question around it is a big deal when it comes to drafting these guys, especially where you would draft Jordan Tyson, which is going to be in the top half of the first round. You don't want to draft a guy that you believe is going to be hurt. And he had a major knee injury his first season, his freshman season, when he was at Colorado. He tore his ACL, MCL, and PCL. So he missed the back couple of games of that 2023 season, or the 2022 season. It obviously lingered into 2023 where he didn't play much in his first year at Arizona State. He had a collarbone injury, and then he also had a hamstring injury, which he has been dealing with over the last 2 years. And so injury, something that every NFL team is going to think about with Jordan Tyson, and they're going to have to clear him medically. But on the field, there is so much to love about what he brings to the position, the explosiveness, the route running, the overall size, yards after catch mentality, the big play mentality. It's all there for him to be a wide receiver one at the NFL level. The injuries check out, the health checks out. I think he's your guy if you're picking one wide receiver in this class. Number 2 on the list, somebody who I really loved when I was getting into the summer scouting exercises a handful of months ago before this season even started, is USC wide receiver Makai Lemon. Now, Lemon, he's not even a redshirt junior or a senior. I think he's a true junior, so he might not even declare in this class. There is still room for him to go back to school and go back to college football. But to be honest with you, with the last 2 years that he has had, I don't know why you would. His production is phenomenal. He's showcasing NFL ability. It is all there for him. And when we look at some of the PFF numbers from him, you see fantastic grades both in man and zone coverage situations. Against man coverage, 84.7 overall grade. Against zone coverage, 90.7. He's a smaller receiver. He's only about 5'11", 195 pounds. So he's not super small, but he's not somebody that, this is somebody who I really want to put on the line of scrimmage as an X receiver, an outside receiver. Now, he does play on the outside, so his receiver type, I still have him as a slot or Z receiver, so maybe not an X that you see on the line of scrimmage at the boundary all the time, but he is somebody that, because of his competitive toughness, because of how reliable of a blocker he is at his size, pound for pound, he's really strong. You feel good about him on 2 wide receiver sets. You feel good about him playing as an outside wide receiver at times, just because you know that if you want to run the ball that way, he's gonna block his butt off for you. So I think that his separation percentile is great, 66th percentile that you see there. Yards per route run over 3 is pretty crazy, and you see that by the 94th percentile that number shows up as. So Makai Lemon's just one of my favorite wide receivers because of the hand strength that he has, just the short area explosiveness to be an elite route runner, somebody who could truly put his foot in the ground and change direction. It's not like, I've got to take a couple of steps in order for me to turn my hips and really break on a route. He is 1 foot is in the ground and now I am going the other direction. That type of separation ability is so valuable. And we see a little bit of that in the clip that I want to show you guys here. This is a game against Michigan. He's lined up in the slot. So he's got this defender that is not in press coverage. He's got a little bit of cushion here, but when you have this cushion, what you want to do is you want to attack the player who, if you think that it's sort of a man coverage situation, which it looks like this one is, you want to put this defender in all sorts of conflict. And the way that you do that is you want to make them panic. And to panic, you've got to sprint straight at them. Eat up that cushion as fast as possible so that they're trying to evaluate everything. Okay, which way might you be going? Which way are the other wide receivers around me going? Okay, what are my fellow defenders doing? And the less time you give a defender to be able to think about all those things, the less likely they'll be able to cover you the way that you need to. And this is a really great example of Mekhi getting out of his stance and not needing an elaborate release because there's no press coverage. It's not like he has to, have a two-step release or a jab release or a diamond release. Like, he doesn't need to do any sort of shoulder shimmying and anything like that because there's nobody right in front of him. His goal is to get up to this defender as quickly as possible. Watch how quickly he does that, and then watch him put his foot in the ground, turn, and have an incredible contested catch as well, which showcases the strength that he plays with despite not being the biggest dude in the world. So watch his play. See how quickly he was able to eat up that space between him and the defender, and then you just see an unbelievable catch. Here we got a couple different angles of it. Here's another one that I'll let just play through all the way, and then this final angle I think is probably the best one to take a look at. So off the line of scrimmage, you see him eat up that cushion as quickly as he can, but you want to make the defender still stay square. You want to make them defend those two ways that you have when you're in the slot. Obviously chops the feet, chops the hands, chops the shoulders to create a little bit of hesitation in how this guy is covering him, puts his foot in the ground, hits the corner out, gets in the end zone, and look at this, man. Coming back to the ball, it's a little bit to that outside shoulder. He's got to turn his entire body to go get this thing. And look at the full arm extension. The reason why he's so look at it. That is it done maximizing the catch radius. That is what Mekhi Lemon does here. And the best part about it is this was a opportunity where he kind of had to, right? He had to go pluck this ball out of the air as high as he possibly could. That's a situation where it demanded it. But there are other situations where, passes are coming his way and he is still extending his hands to catch the ball away from his frame. Some guys, I don't want to say get lazy about it. Sometimes it's just like a comfort and a preference thing. They'll let the ball get into their chest and they'll kind of, they'll corral the football instead of really extending your hands to go attack it. Anytime you do that, you're just inviting there to be, a strange bounce. If the spiral wasn't super tight and hit your chest a little bit earlier than you thought it would, well, maybe now all of a sudden it's bouncing off your hands and there's a drop that it shouldn't have been. That's why wide receiver coaches teach all these guys attack the ball in the air. Mekhi Lemon, it's one of those things that showcases how detailed of a football player he is, how he attacks the ball in the air, how he sets up his defenders, how he's always so nuanced in his breaks and his routes, and just how competitively tough this dude is. Every single NFL team is going to want a guy like Mekhi Lemon. Size be damned. Third player, Carnell Tate from Ohio State, somebody who I think is having a fantastic year. I remember watching him in the offseason, and I was like, man, I love his approach to the game. Really strong hands, really reliable player, very nuanced of a route runner, understands those little separation points and how you can win in the little ways at the wide receiver position. But I wondered if he was, an athlete enough to be somebody that we consider with a top 15, top 20 overall draft pick. And I really do think that because of how consistent this guy is, okay, again, maybe he's not the most athletic in the world, but he is athletic enough. I think that he has wide receiver 2 ability in the NFL, and I think that there is a chance from what we have seen this past year for him to be a wide receiver 1 at the NFL level. He's a guy who I'd love to set up as an outside wide receiver, but one who's off the line of scrimmage. Give him a little bit of space. Make him the pre-snap motion player because I think he can win at a variety of different slots and spacing when it comes to the offensive concepts. He's really good at that because of how good of a route runner he is. Now, I think that the separation percentile against single coverage, 95th percentile, I mean, that's just incredible from Carnell Tate. And going back to him not being the best athlete, I think that showcases just how smart he is as a route runner. And at PFF, we have metrics and we have traits that we think are more stable and more unstable when it comes to projecting sort of what they do to the NFL level. Those separation scores are often stable metrics. If you could separate in college, there's a good chance you're still going to be able to separate in the NFL, especially the way that Carnell Tate does that. Now we've got a clip here from him this season. He's the receiver at the bottom of the screen here. You're not going to be able to see a ton of him on this first angle, but you see him even right off the beginning. I just want to point this out. What we can see from this player, you don't get the full look at it, but watch how violently he hits that jab step. So he's got press coverage against him. So he sort of sets the defensive back up by taking one step to one direction and then just putting his foot in the ground, really executing that jab step release very well, very violently to get across the face of the defensive back, forcing him to fully turn his hips to try to keep up with Carnell Tate. And then we'll see afterwards, he puts a little bit of sauce on the rest of the route, and then we'll see a great contested catch as well. But that's the first thing you love about Tate is his attention to detail when it comes to winning off of press coverage. So you'll see that, boom, that violent movement to get him that initial separation. We'll see a great contested catch here at the goal line and into the end zone here. But you see, just it's those little subtleties of he's always trying to create that separation. Whether it's leaning one way and forcing a defender, okay, maybe a little bit more inside, knowing that I'm gonna hit a quick cut to the outside. Just little stuff like that. The nuances of route running. He's always just trying to consciously create that separation, and that's how you get a 95th percentile separation score from him. And then of course you've got a great contested catch as well. This is him going up to get it. I would have loved to see him, catch it when it was at its highest point, but looked like the ball was falling a little bit earlier than he thought. He's able to double clutch it, still able to showcase the strong hands there. So Carnell Tate, somebody who I thought maybe a back end first round, early second round type of a receiver going into the season, but it feels like his stock is soaring and he is firmly into that top 20, top 15 overall conversation. Hayden in the chat, I'm just seeing this and I want to get to it just because we're not talking about this player specifically, but Chris Brazzell II, the wide receiver for Tennessee, somebody who I really like in this class. I do. He's a little bit more of a boomer bust type of a vertical wide receiver, but man, you talk about big wide receivers who have unique flexibility, having this ability to put their foot in the ground, change direction very quickly. You don't often see guys be able to do that the way that Brazzell does, especially with the vertical speed that he has. So I think that the blocking a little hot and cold, and sometimes, when he knows he's getting the ball, knows he's not getting the ball, it's a little bit hot and cold, but I think that's also the nature of the fast tempo of what Tennessee asked him to do. Because I think a lot of people are going to ask this, here's another vertical wide receiver from Tennessee. They look at Jalen Hyatt and how he really didn't pan out or have that similar production that he had at Tennessee when he won the Biletnikoff Award. He hasn't been able to replicate that at the NFL level. I like Brazzell and his traits more than I did Jalen Hyatt. So I do think more highly of him there, although I think that he's probably still like a third round pick type of a vertical wide receiver for you. Let's move on to the next guy in my top 5. Number 4 overall, Denzel Boston, the wide receiver from Washington. Now, this is a big dude, 6'4", around 210 pounds. He is an X type of a wide receiver. And what that means is he is on the line of scrimmage. You got to have enough players on the line of scrimmage every single play to be eligible. And when you have one wide receiver out there, 2 wide receivers out there, 3 wide receivers out there, it doesn't matter. Somebody's got to be on the line of scrimmage. And when you have players that are going to be on the line of scrimmage, what you want them to win with is strength and size. And he absolutely has the ability to do that. A lot of times with these X receivers, you're also putting them towards the boundary side of the overall field, not the field side. So space is often limited. So you've got to have that size advantage and that strength advantage, because a lot of times you're going to be having these catches towards the sideline where space is absolutely at a premium. And I think that Denzel Boston does that very, very well. Look at the man coverage grade for Denzel Boston, 90.5 receiving grade against man coverage situations. Now, he's not the fastest or most flexible wide receiver in the world, so that's why you see that single coverage separation score a little bit lower. But for a true big man X receiver, 51st percentile, that's not too bad at all. And so Denzel Boston is somebody who I think he brings an added element of just being a smooth route runner to being a big man. And you just don't see this very often. So let's showcase the contested catch or the deep catch ability. When you have these big wide receivers, you think, all right, maybe it's just the sideline stuff. Yeah, it could be, the red zone targets, the red zone fades, things like that. But we don't have the full view on this Denzel Boston play, but watch him right here. First and foremost, he just looks like an NFL wide receiver, right? I mean, you see him versus the rest of his competition versus the rest of these guys, and this dude stands out from a size perspective. You see him get off the line of scrimmage cleanly. He's not going up against true press coverage, but what he does with that space, a lot of times when you get these big wide receivers, they don't know what to do when they're in space. They're like, okay, well, if I'm not going up against press coverage, how do I really win? And Boston's not that kind of a player. We'll watch this whole route here, and you see him get deep over the middle. We'll see a big catch here from him. And it's just him understanding operating space. And then, of course, you've got the full extension catch here, maximizing the catch radius. The hand-eye coordination is fantastic from him. Obviously, you've got the jumping ability, the timing ability. All that is there for him to come down with this catch. And he brings that type of ability to the red zone, to the sideline, everywhere. He just gives you a little bit extra movement skills for a big man. I think a lot of people are going to watch Denzel Boston. They're going to see a little bit of Drake London, like what Drake London's able to do here with the Atlanta Falcons. I love London when he was coming out of USC. I felt like he was somebody that, yeah, he was going to live on contested catches, but you knew you had faith that he was going to be a great contested catch type of a wide receiver. And I even think that he's gotten better as a route runner as well. So Denzel Boston, number 4 for me on this list. Number 5, the final wide receiver that I have in my top 5 as of right now, Texas A&M wide receiver Casey Concepcion. This is somebody who I think has been used in a variety of different ways when he has been in college football. They've used him as an outside wide receiver. They've used him as a slot wide receiver. They've used him as a running back. They've used him as a wildcat quarterback at times. The offenses that have had the chance to get to work with Casey Concepcion, they basically just tried to get the ball in his hands in any way possible. And there's a great reason why. The yards after catch numbers that this guy has, that's why he's number 5 for me. It's this total all-around athleticism that full transparency, when I was going into this year, I kind of watched his tape and I was like, I think he's a fun college football player. I don't really know if he's an NFL player. It feels like he's just a good athlete that's a difference maker at the college level. I don't know if he's really a true wide receiver. And this year at Texas A&M, in my opinion, he has really morphed into a true wide receiver. Much better at route running, much better in the deep routes, the intermediate routes, winning with separation, winning with nuance. Like all of that is so much better this year, along with having that great athleticism. You see some of the numbers from him. Again, a lot of these numbers you guys can see over at pff.com if you have a PFF Plus subscription. Look at that separation percentile versus single coverage. That's the type of athlete that we're talking about here, especially for one that gives you a lot of yards after catch potential. When you have a 94th percentile score in separation, 78% of your targets are open targets. That means that you've got a lot of green grass to work with after that, and that's why you see so many yards after catch for Casey Concepcion. You see the yards per route run as well, 2.71. That's 81st percentile. This guy's also an excellent punt returner as well because, hey, if you're going to make guys miss as a wide receiver, we're going to put you back there in punt return, and we're going to watch you make guys miss there as well, which he absolutely does. And speaking of that, let's take a look at this clip of him versus Missouri here earlier this year. Now, there's not a ton to this clip, but I picked this one specifically because I think that it showcases the type of playmaker Concepcion is. The processing speed that he has to make defenders miss is so quick, and that to me is so translatable. You watch him right here. So he's aligned in the slot, condensed, close to the line of scrimmage, and what they're going to do is they're going to have him just run a very simple drag route right over the middle. And they're going to get him the ball right here, and there's going to be a defender right in front of him. Watch the timing in which he goes from being a receiver catching the football to making this guy miss immediately. Simple little route over the middle, catch, boom, immediately made this dude miss. The timing from which he became a receiver, I mean, it was a step and a half, and he's making this dude miss in the open field. That is playmaking. And then, of course, right afterwards, he almost becomes a running back right afterwards with what he's able to do, gaining those yards and getting upfield. That's the type of playmaker mentality and playmaking ability that Concepcion has that I absolutely love. You can get the ball in his hands in a variety of different ways in the offense. It reminds me a lot of, like a Deebo Samuel type, where when Deebo Samuel was really cooking in that San Francisco 49ers offense with what Kyle Shanahan had, a lot of screen stuff, and he was able to really take over. So Concepcion is fantastic. He's my number 5 wide receiver. Now, I think a lot of people are going to, future scouting, take a look at some wide receivers that are already balling out who aren't even draft eligible yet. We've got guys like Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State, Cam Coleman from Auburn, Ryan Williams from Alabama. Where would those guys fit in this class? Well, I'll be honest with you. I love Cam Coleman and Jeremiah Smith. I think Jeremiah Smith would be the number one wide receiver in this class, and I think Cam Coleman would be the number two wide receiver in this class. I think those guys are future NFL studs, no question about it. Those two guys are fantastic. I would probably have Jordan Tyson right after them. Of course, like we talked about, the injury sort of goes into this, so Tyson would be right after them from a talent perspective. And then Mario Craver from Texas A&M is fantastic as well. Texas A&M's got some really great wide receivers and weapons for Marcel Reed to throw the ball to. Obviously, we saw with them being 11-1 this season. But Mario Craver, I think, is up there as well. I would put him in that conversation with Mekhi Lemon, so it would sort of be of the next guy in there. I think Craver is right there. Ryan Williams from Alabama, really tough year from Ryan Williams. He showed so much as a true freshman, but just some concentration drops and lack of play strength from him this year. But man, as a vertical threat, I mean, he is a fantastic athlete. So you'd think about him kind of right after that. Ryan Wingo from Texas, you also put into this conversation. So the 2026 class, there's a lot of fun players, but man, that 2027 class looks like it could be absolutely loaded. Let's get to some risers and fallers. I'll pick one from each category. Okay, the first riser that I want to talk about here is not Denzel Burke. Oh my goodness, Deion Burke. Thank you. Denzel Burke's the cornerback from Ohio State, who I've said his name a million times because he was in last year's draft class. Deion Burks, the wide receiver from Oklahoma, is who I want to talk about here today because the production, not great from him. The yards per route run, a lot lower. And he's a smaller wide receiver, and so you wonder, okay, can he play on the outside? I don't know if I would have him play on the. I think he's probably just a slot at the NFL level. But guys, it's so hard for me to quit this player because there is so much athletic potential with him. Bruce Feldman does a great job covering college football, gives us the Feldman's freak list before college football every single year. He talked about Deion Burks and said that he squats over 540 pounds. He can bench press over 400 pounds. Pound for pound, this dude is one of the strongest players in all of college football. And there is a play against LSU from earlier this year that I think showcases that. So he might be a little bit more of a streamlined player. But as a slot receiver, who you get the ball in his hands really quickly, in the screen game, in the quick game, whatever it is, this dude can be off to the races. Here he is, bottom of the screen right here. So obviously, like, he tries to create a little bit of separation, knows that the quick screen play is coming to him. So he catches the ball and just immediately explodes up the field. Zero had no chance of cutting this guy off. No chance. Even if he didn't have blockers there, the way that Burks is moving, look how much of a head start he's got. He then starts outrunning his lead blocker pretty quick. I just think that that's the type of explosiveness and the playmaker that we've got here with Deion Burks from Oklahoma. I think that just because of how more limited he has been, and I thought he was going to take a step up this year with John Mateer as his quarterback, but it really just didn't happen for him. The yards per route run is a little bit lower, just has a 65.0 receiving grade this season. 71.6 receiving grade against man coverage, which is a little bit better, which you love to see. But I think that he's just going to be one of those guys that you want to get the ball in their hands really quickly. And I think he's got NFL level athleticism. And anytime you have that, it's going to be really tough for me to quit you as a prospect. Faller, or somebody who I would just say, Faller maybe might be a little bit harsh, but somebody who I was expecting more from, who I just didn't get a lot from this year or as much as I thought I was going to get. It's actually Mekhi Lemon's teammate, Jacoby Lane at USC. Now, Lemon and Lane gave you basically the total package of however you wanted to attack the field. Jaden Mayava, their quarterback at USC, we talked about him during the quarterback episode, how I really like the way that he came along this year and how great of a touch passer he was and how his anticipation was fantastic. And when I looked at Lane, Lane was the contested catch, big-bodied X-wide receiver, the on-the-line of scrimmage guy, the red zone target type of a player. And when I look at Lane, I kind of do think that he's a little bit limited to just that role, which is okay. I think a lot of teams want like a red zone stud, somebody who could be at the sideline, give you a lot of contested catches. And I think that that archetype of a player is totally fine and can have a lot of value at any level of football. But the problem with Lane, and I'll show you this play really quick. You've got him, I believe this is him right here in the slot. He's going to be running just a route where he's just going straight over the middle. And you'll see, is it the best throw? No. But when you're a big body wide receiver, and we know that the separation is not going to be a calling card of your game, you kind of got to come down with anything that is near your frame and anything that hits your hands. And this is an example of a handful of drops that Lane had this season. He had 6 total drops, 9.3 drop percentage this season. Those are the kinds of throws that I need to see you come down with. If you're going to be streamlined in what you do, you've got to be excellent at it. And Lane has showed some impressive contested catches throughout the course of his career. So we know that he can do it, but he's got to be really reliable. When I'm throwing to him, I'm probably going to be throwing jump ball situations where it's going to be him and a defender really fighting for it. Not only do I need to know that he's going to come down with those situations more often than not, I need to know that he's going to be a very sure-handed player. Catchable passes caught is a percentage that we have over at PFF, and Jacoby Lane has been below 90% in each of the last 2 years. And so that's something where we always want to see guys in the low 90 percentages, and especially, of course, if you can get to the mid and high 90s with catchable passes caught, that stat kind of speaks for itself. We want you to come down with those passes. So Lane is somebody who is a true junior. He could very well go back to school, but that was one where I know a lot of people were big fans of what he was able to do because of the highlight reel contested catches, but just has to be a little bit more reliable, I think, whether it's in the NFL or next year if he's still at USC or if he transfers. Let's talk about a perfect fit here that we have from one of these guys that we talked about. And I teased it a little bit. I mentioned it. I would love for Casey Concepcion to be in the San Francisco 49ers offense. Deebo Samuel's not there anymore, but the need for that type of a player absolutely is. There's a lot of uncertainty with what that wide receiver room is even going to look like. And really, moving forward, going into next year, it looks like Brandon Ayuk's not going to be on the roster. Juwan Jennings is a free agent. They have Ricky Pearsall, but there's a couple of other free agents after him. It feels like it's just Pearsall at this point. They're going to need another wide receiver. And I think Concepcion gives them the ability to lean back into what Deebo Samuel did, dusting off the Deebo Samuel plays now that he is no longer there. I think they try to force feed Christian McCaffrey into a lot of those plays. And with Concepcion, you can still do that with McCaffrey. You've just now got 2 guys that you're able to work with and that I think could operate that for you. So that's one of the spots that I really like. A sleeper in this class, I'm just going to shout out somebody from UConn, Skyler Bell, their wide receiver. I know anybody who's been following my work knows that I'm late to this one. I watched Skyler Bell last year and I was like, I don't know if he's an athlete enough to be considered a top or a difference-making type of NFL wide receiver. But this year, my goodness, he has been unbelievable. 85.3 overall receiving grade, 82.5 grade against man coverage, 3.15 yards per route run. That is, I think, like 98th percentile of any wide receiver. They built the whole passing attack around Skyler Bell, but he's not just a volume guy this year. He showcased elite route running ability, consistent separation, winning in so many ways that are translatable to the NFL level. And so Skyler Bell, he still might not be the most athletic wide receiver that we're going to have in this class, but the way that he consistently got himself open, you don't get that high of a yards per route run number, even with a high volume percentage, unless you are a really good route runner, consistently open and giving your quarterback the ability to hit you with an open target and a confident window to be able to throw to. So Skyler Bell, shout out to him. He's my sleeper in this class. He is absolutely fantastic. Redshirt Raider, got somebody in the chat's asking, is Nick Harbor in this class or is he next year? Thoughts on him? Nick Harbor could be in this class. He is a true junior, so he could be in this class. He is, now for anybody that doesn't know Nick Harbor is the wide receiver from South Carolina. When we say elite level speed, we truly mean it. I'm talking about Olympic level speed from this dude. And he is 6'5", right around like 220, 230. I mean, like he is a big wide receiver with incredible vertical ability. Now, he played both defensive end and wide receiver when he was coming out of high school, while also being a state champion track sprinter. And so going into the NFL, we actually didn't know, or going into college football, excuse me, we actually didn't know which position he was going to play. He ended up he chose wide receiver. He wanted to be wide receiver, and it's definitely been a work in progress. Now, I got to see him in person a couple of times this year, and I do definitely think he is getting better. He is getting better at the nuances of the wide receiver position. He's becoming a better route runner, but where he's got great straight line speed, a little stiff in the hips. He's not going to run the full route tree for you. He's more of just a vertical stem type of a wide receiver. But with him having the size that he has and some really impressive contested catches this past year, you combine that with the speed that he has, and at the very worst, I think this guy's going to be a fifth-round pick if he was in this class. Maybe he could be even more if he's in next year, but I'd say somewhere around third to fifth round. That's the range that I have for Nick Harbor here. Still learning the wide receiver position. The ceiling, a little bit of a question mark there for him, just how good of a wide receiver he can be, but you can't ask for a better athlete at the wide receiver spot, especially with the size that he has. So NFL teams, you better believe, are going to be very intrigued for him. Surprise teams that I think could attack the wide receiver position in the draft. The Ravens are the first one. Once again, feels like it's just Zay Flowers, right? I mean, like they've drafted a couple of wide receivers. They've leaned into tight end, but Isaiah likely might be gone this offseason. They re-signed Mark Andrews, but he hasn't been productive as he has been in the past. And Tylan Wallace is a free agent. They have Tez Walker, but it's not like he's a big part of their passing game plan. It feels like we've just been saying that the Ravens are Zay Flowers, and that's basically it from the wide receiver spot. And unfortunately, Bateman has not consistently become that wide receiver 2 they need him to be. So I think the Ravens could potentially be aggressive here for the wide receiver spot. And then the Miami Dolphins as well. With Tyreek Hill's injury earlier this season, very clearly, it's just Jalen Waddle for them right now at the receiver spot. So I know they have Malik Washington as well, who I like as a slot receiver. He's somebody who was great at creating separation at Virginia with all the volume that he got a couple of years ago. So I still like him as a part of this lineup here, but they need another wide receiver 2. They need somebody along with Jalen Waddle, and so I wonder if they get aggressive, especially if Mike McDaniel is still there as their head coach, which it looks like he's going to be. They're going to get aggressive for a wide receiver spot there. We've obviously got the Microsoft Surface here with us. We got Copilot, and earlier I asked them the question, how many wide receivers have been drafted in the first round over the last 6 drafts? Spit out the answer right there for me, because that's what you guys can do if you got a Copilot. And we had 6 in 2020. Okay. We had 5 in 2021, then 6 again, 4, 7, and then 4. So we're at least getting 4 wide receivers in the first round, it looks like, every single class. And so for this class, I look at the guys at the very top. I look at Jordan Tyson. I look at Carnell Tate, I look at Mekhi Lemon, and I look at Denzel Boston. I think at least those 4 wide receivers are going to be next off the board to be first-round wide receivers in the 2026 NFL draft class. Maybe we get Concepcion in there. Maybe we get a 5th wide receiver in there. We know that the league loves to draft these talented playmakers. It just kind of depends on what the league believes on the rest of the offense. I think the offensive tackle class, the offensive line class in general, the tight end class, not as good. Running back class as well, just not as star-studded this year. Not a lot of guys that you would consider in the first round. So, does the NFL still force feed some offensive line options there? Do they not do that, and do they allocate it to playmakers instead if they believe that those players are more talented, more translatable to the pros? All of those questions are there. So I think we're at least getting 4 wide receivers from this class, the 4 guys that I named. Maybe we could get a 5th and 6th in there, depending on how the rest of the class goes. Love talking wide receivers with you guys. Appreciate everybody who got in the chat, watched this thing live. We're going to be here every single week. Talk about every position for the 2026 NFL Draft. We'll give you the player rankings. We'll give you the evaluations, the film breakdowns, all of that great stuff. But that's it for me this week. Once again, I'm Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus, saying thank you guys so much for watching another episode of BR's Draft Board Show. I will see you guys same time next week. See you then.